to Crushgasm, the podcast dedicated to the highs and lows of crushes. From their first to their worst, we're going to cover them all with a cascade of characters, including our guest today, a comic convention steeple, Nate Jones, a music producer, guitarist, illustrator, and plant daddy who is here to talk not only about his latest music endeavor, 10's Era, but also a crush from an era of our lives I find the most endearing, and that's middle school. Nate, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Doing fantastic today. So before we get to this crush that we're going to call Tina and other crushes a little later, tell me, what was 7th grade Nate like?
7th grade Nate was a total dork. Not attractive, not fit, had really bad hair. I hadn't quite, I had just kind of hit puberty, and it was not doing me well.
Now, are you saying that in retrospect? Do you look back and think maybe I wasn't that bad? It was just all just the anxiety and awkwardness of middle school? Or are you did you look back and be like, yeah, that guy was not right?
Oh no, objectively, it's not like I was a bad 7th grader. I was not a bully. I was just more of a nerd, kind of a dork. Playing trombone in middle school. I think I was second chair, starting to learn to play guitar. Funny enough, because I'm trying to think. Yeah, my dad kind of introduced it to me, but it was just oh, you'll get, you'll attract women playing guitar, and it's just well, it's gonna be many years before that's a thing.
You were always a very artistic person, creatively, or was it just to get the girls?
No. I mean, I was genuinely, and I still am genuinely into music, and I'm glad that even though that was kind of the agenda behind my dad, bless his heart. I think it was something that when I got into, I was just picking it up. I was hearing the radio. I was learning parts on songs just by ear. I didn't know how to read music. I was just way into the instrument, even though I didn't really have a good guitar or a good amp, or I wasn't, the years before I was in a band. But it was kind of like I found something with playing music. I played trombone too, but I wasn't going to be in a ska band or anything. It was just something that I did at high school. Oh, I'll play a jazz here, quote unquote jazz. You're not playing real jazz. You're just playing high school band jazz. But I've been drawing since I was 3, so I would still draw some stuff every once in a while, but I wasn't really doing anything intense back in 7th grade.
So none of this trombone. I mean, you were second chair. This was not impressing anybody.
Second chair trombone. It did not attract anyone. But
darn, it was the hair. We'll just blame it on your bad hair.
I'll blame it on the hair, the jersey selection. I think I was still wearing a lot of I'm trying to think. I think I was wearing Orlando Magic jerseys and stuff, because that was right around the time people were still wearing basketball jerseys of Michael Jordan or Shaquille O'Neal, or all these people that were very much bandwagon, who's the big band, or not band, but who's the big team, who's the biggest player at the time. Chicago Bulls were pretty big in the 90s, so that was one thing I would wear.
They defined the 90s.
Yeah, kind of hard to get away from that. I mean, I remember other people would be oh yeah, I'm into Shaquille O'Neal, or into who was the guy in the Suns? Charles Barkley. Yeah. But I never. It's so funny because I'd be one of the people who would bandwagon it up and wear those jerseys, but I never watched a game. Sports very much I wore the outfit because I thought it was cool. And that was, by the way, this is right when Genco started becoming a thing. I did not catch on to that train, which was ill-fated until probably early 2000s, so a few more years in the high school. But there was some people at our middle school who were wearing the giant wide leg Gencos around 7th, 8th grade, and it was just yeah, we all had very unfortunate fashion tastes, and I was kind of this amalgamation of what I thought was popular and what I thought I could pull off, and it was very much more. I was not really able to pull it off. It would be years before I would be make the right choices when it comes to clothing. So I was wearing a lot of ill-fitting, both conceptually and literally ill-fitting clothing back in those days.
But I think that's why I said I love the middle school era of our lives, because no matter who you are, I don't care if you were the cool kid or you were the dork, you in the hindsight, you were not cool. This is where you're like figuring yourself out and you are trying to like fit in at all times, and you're wearing a Charles Barkley jersey even though you don't even know what team he plays on. You're just like, that one says Barkley, and you have no idea what even like sport it is. I mean, it's just the beauty of middle school. I love it. Yeah, but I was in the honors class, and the thing about our school is we kind of stayed with the same kids from 6th to 8th grade, depending on your education level. Was that something your school did?
Well, I mean, we all had like I think they had a few different homeroom. I think it was like groups. I'm trying to remember how many different. Let's see, I think we had like 10 teachers. So each of those kind of had their own homeroom class. So I had a lot of the same friends in my homeroom class, and they would just cycle throughout the day.
So I'm asking because I want to know, like, was Tina like in your core class group, or was she someone you like saw from afar? She was like maybe in an elective, maybe in band, maybe in an art class or something. Like, where did you find Tina?
I really can't remember which class that I knew her from. This is where, like, I do have to apologize. And obviously, you brought me on the podcast, and I'm not the best at telling stories. But just because, like, the very small, specific stuff, like, she would end up later on being in, like, Flag Corps, which, would do their thing with the band. But at this point, she wasn't in band. She was not in my homeroom class, but she was in one of the classes. Like, I think she ended up being in like my science class, maybe a little bit like an English class. To a degree, there hadn't been a whole lot of flirting or anything between me and this person. It was one of those really kind of like seeing from afar, like you kind of get love at first sight, even though like there's absolutely no reason that you should be entertaining these thoughts because you haven't even like talked to this person, you haven't had conversations. Which I think this is something that thankfully a lot more of this discussion is happening with kids today, because where we grew up, or when we grew up in the late 90s, we were still kind of very much subscribing to these ideas like love at first sight, or not people really did subscribe to at that point like the friend zone and other these really toxic ideas. But I mean, this is junior high, so I think it was not even like going on dates. It was more like I didn't hang out with her in any kind of capacity, barely, outside of having these homeroom classes, and she hung out with some friends that were, we were mutual friends with some people.
Well, I wanted to know, like, what stood out about her. Was she wearing like Jinko jeans? Like, was she one of those cool kids? Like, what was it about Tina that made her like kind of be like the Patty mayonnaise to your Doug Funny?
Wow, that's a good reference. Well, it's really funny that you should say that, because she was blonde. I mean, we didn't have I mean, I'm trying to like, yeah, I think she was a cheerleader at the time too. Like, there's all these tropes that it's not like her fault. Like, I mean, she was who she was. She had these qualities about her that I think at the time I found attractive, and I don't know. It's so weird thinking about it now that like I would even think that I had a shot with this person, or even have anything really in common. And that would kind of get the script on that would be flipped a little bit later on. But like, I just remember like there was like this. I had this attraction to this person, but really like going back and thinking about it, and I'm sure you can do the same thing with people you dated or had any kind of relationship with. It's just like you question like, what did I find out? Like, why did I seek this person out? Why did I think that there was a possibility that this person would go to like a dance with me? And that was very much like, it was rooted in like, oh, I asked this person to a dance. After building up this crush, after building up in my head this like, scenario in which we're dating, or like not even, this is like 7th grade, right? So it's not like it's not even like objectification is even playing into it. You're just like kind of more innocent and thinking that, oh, I can't wait to hold hands with this person. I remember asking this person for to go to this dance with me, and rejected me, which was fine. Like, thinking about it now, that's the thing. At the time, I was crestfallen, but like, it makes so much sense. Why the hell would this person go to a dance with you when you barely like you've hung around, but you haven't had conversations. You haven't like had these connections. Like, of course they're gonna say no. I would come to my own and start actually dating people throughout like, middle of 7th grade and onward. So like I got over it, but at the same time, it was very much, it was devastating at the time,
Is
because
that
I
why
built up this.
you said the crush was short-lived? Is it because Tina was like, no, get out of here, weird hair kid. I'm not going to the dance with you.
It wasn't that. It was actually this person handled it extremely nicely, which they didn't have to do. Obviously, they could have said, "Hey, get out of here, weird kid," or get out of here, Nate. No, they were totally accommodating. They were totally fine. Like I wasn't being a creeper, but I also just like really had no good reason to believe that this person would want to go to dance with me. It wasn't like, I know we still kind of hung out in some social circles, but like high school changed that a lot. I was hanging out more with like band people. It's really funny because I would definitely like this person became more of a preppy kind of a person. A little bit more of the popular side, hanging out with the more athletic people. I was not athletic in high school, barely athletic now. I can ride a bike far. That's about all I got. Point being, we were in high school, like we just did not hang out in a lot of the same social circles outside of like she was part of drum corps in band. Literally like years, it was like right around getting out of high school where I reconnected with this person right before we get in college. My friend brought me in to help out set up with this flag corps while they were going on their own like competition that they had to go to. That thing was in Belleville. It was like an hour. Well, it wasn't Belleville. I think it might have been Mount Olive. I'm not sure. It was in Illinois. It was about a few hours. There was a lengthy bus ride to get there, and me and this person got to sit down together, and we were or next to each other. And I think I was at the same time too. Here's the antiquated sentence of the decade. I was listening on my Discman. Oh. Like I literally had like a sleeve of CD, like a package of CDs, like 72 CD disc holder. And then I was like, listening to Tool at the time. I was way into this band. And I found out that she was a Tool fan. I was just like, oh, like we were having that moment where we were bonding over music, and the quotation started to come back out, but this was still in like early college. I was not smooth. I would not become smooth for years. Like I'm barely smooth now, but like I'll say like, in college I definitely wasn't smooth. And like, I think it was just like, I was starting to rekindle that little bit of crush. Cause it's like, oh, this person, like you do that thing, that really dumb thing that you do when you're young, which is, oh, this person and I have the same music taste. Maybe we have a chance dating. Oh, why do we do that?
We like the same color. Oh my God, we have the same shoes. That means we're going to get married. Duh.
We're soulmates.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Did you like feel did you like when you were like on the bus and she was like, oh, I like Maynard too, his place is amazing, did you kind of turn into 13-year-old you again, or were you like
kind of, yeah, I think I kind of had that like moment where I was like, oh, but I think it wasn't so much I wasn't building up unrealistic fantasies at that point. I was just like thinking, oh, this person and I can talk again, this is cool. But like, instead of thinking, oh, I could form a friendship with this person, which would be, I think, the more, the better move. Instead, I was like, oh, maybe me and this person can date at some point. It's just like, oh, Nate, what are you doing? And it's funny because like we would end up being, in the same building. Like she ended up being like besties with this woman who, like we all ended up having the same friend group in college in the first few years, and we hung out a little bit more then. And I would start to discover a little bit like how divergent our existence in high school was, where like she was parts of groups that literally had like serious hardcore drug addictions in high school, and I was like playing a trombone. Like I was
not weird. Like you're just like, well, I was just like that too. I was like, like I was watching Reba on Friday nights while all these other kids were like out partying, and there's like pregnancies, and I'm like, they were living Degrassi, and I was just like the most boring person in high school.
Right. Right. No. Same.
So like when you were starting to like get to know her more, get around her more in college, but you say like you couldn't really be friends with her because like the crush feelings always came back. Is that something like you've had a problem with other females or other people you've liked? Like, oh, once you start to have those feels, you can't really be friends with them. Have you gotten over that with age?
Oh, thankfully I got over that with age. And I was actually, at the time I was more than fine with having or a friendship with this person. I think it was one of those things where it just ekes into it, where you're like sometimes, and this exists with a lot of people who have platonic friendships, that sometimes you kind of like, or there's what they call, I'm trying to remember the name for it, and I've heard of different names for it, but people who are your friends who sometimes you cuddle with, or people who are your friends where you have this romantic thing, that is usually, hopefully, registered by both parties, but like you're still also cool being friends. That was something that didn't even register to us back in like the early 2000s. Like we didn't even know about that. So it's kind of like either like you were friends, or you were someone who had a crush on somebody, but they didn't it wasn't reciprocated, or you had something going on. Me and this person, I think it was just more like, by the time I'd kind of gotten over, I would get this crush back every once in a while. And I'm so glad I don't think this way anymore. There's always one of those things where it's like, well, maybe we can date potentially. Thankfully I was a little more innocent. I wasn't thinking like, oh, maybe we could sleep together. Like that wasn't even on my, like, I didn't even, geez, it'd be years before I was all, this is how bad I am. Like it was years before I would even like lose, like, I don't think I even lost my virginity until like post, like, college. So I was or later years of college, I was super innocent.
I feel like
loser brigade. I think I was just one of those like really dorky kids who would get crushes on people who were you were kind of in your friend groups. With this person specifically, it had died down considerably, and I think I really started to accept the friendship. But it's kind of those things where like, oh, I would love to hang out with that person again as friends and really build the friendship up, but that time has passed. But I mean, we are into college, so I mean, I will say this is when something similar happened with a different person.
I was gonna say, is like she the type of girl you continued, like, did she represent the type of girl you would continue to crush on, or did once you get to college your horizons broadened and now a new girl entered the chat?
This person actually, after everything said and done, was extremely intelligent. Actually ended up working as a scientist later on. I don't know, I have nothing but respect for this person now. And I'm very glad actually that wires did not get crossed, that we did not like date or ever like even entertain that thought. Because I think it was just like, there was a period of time where I was thinking, oh, we could like I kind of like getting this, old middle school crush back up. But then I was like, you know what? Like I said, it subsided. I was happy to be out of that. I started to look at that whole relationship and, or the lack thereof, that whole friendship, and be a little, not wistful at the time, but like I could, this should be more of a friendship, and I'm happy with that. And unfortunately, I did not have that happening with this other person. I just want to, anybody who's listening out there, I think, I'm in my late 30s. So back when I went to college, like there was still a lot of toxicity, especially with the males. There was still like this concept of friend zoning was still looked at without a side eye. Like we were not calling people incels, even though we probably should have been. And it's just, oh God, I just think about how much I've changed since then. And hopefully all of us can say that we've changed the way we think about relationships and friendships when we get out of college, when we get into more adult lives. Like I said, like I wasn't part of a fraternity. I wasn't part of any of the people who were really like, really awful, but I still had these, these states of being in these mental, like these mindsets and like what we thought was, okay. Like the idea of kind of crushing on someone who was your friend and not having the conversation where, you step aside and be like, hey, I like you. What of it? Do you like me? Or is there a thing that you see like having some kind of not just friendship, and I'm not talking about friends with benefits. I'm talking about having a romantic relationship. All right, do you see me as a potential romantic partner? Like, these are the kind of things that you need to get out, like, not immediately, but like after you've had those conversations with somebody and you had these moments, and you'd be like, hey, like, by the way, like, I have these feelings for you. What, do you have feelings for me? If not, that's cool. Let's get over it. Let's be friends. Like, that's a healthy way to go about relationships. Now, 2021, like, that became a completely different person. I was starting to play music with some people who were in the art department and music department and history department. And we actually started a band when I was 21 that would last for like 9 years. But no, that would be a different name. But I was really hella like still continuing my dorky phase from high school in that early college years. And that is when I met this second person who is the more scandalous crush. We're going to call her, just like Tina wasn't the person's actual name or anywhere near it, we're going to call this person Sandy.
All right.
Sandy was would end up being an art therapy. She was going to my art class at my university. She was in one of the like the first year, you do a bunch of I guess the first year you're doing like prerequisites. It's like first, second year you're starting to get in a lot of the intro art classes. She was in some of my intro art classes, like drawing. Specifically remember, having some group projects, or at least these like subgroups of people, like where you're working on a project with like 3 or 4 people in like an intro to sculpture class. And I just remember having I can't remember exactly when I first saw her. I can't remember who I met her through, but I just remember like having that love at first sight bullshit happen at that age again. Here it happened again. Didn't take my lessons from the first time it happened, but also continue to keep in mind, everyone listening, this happened in 2004. So like the zeitgeist of the way we think about these things had not been shaped yet. I'd be in a much healthier friendship had this been the case, but I was not. I mean, it would start out actually as a very healthy friendship. This person like hung out a bunch. She introduced, like, we had this art class together. We started hanging out in little art groups, going to lunch together, going to some parties. Like, this person would introduce me to, this person was my gateway, even though the band had obviously existed and I knew who they were. This person got me into like full head on into like 9 Inch Nails and more industrial stuff, more alternative bands like Tori Amos and other people who I had not been into at all in high school. And, I'm definitely thankful for that. But once again, like, this is back to the music thing, where it's still that stupid toxic trait where it's like, oh, we're all listening to this music. Maybe we could have this thing. It's like, but are you maybe making that up? Now, with me and this person, it was much less of a, you're grasping for straws at this concept or this emotion that's not there. Because we actually got along very well. We actually like would hang out as friends quite a lot, and it was one of those things where it was very nebulous in the first few years, or at least the first year of our relationship, where things were going, because we never had that sit down and talk. It's one of those things where it's just like, I let this relationship go where we're not having. I think there were so many red flags to where like this is definitely like, oh, you are definitely like just friends with this person. And I think there was one point where like she did start dating this other person, and I was feeling a little beside myself about it, kind of a little in the feels about it, which now, like future Nate would be like, go back and smack the shit out of young Nate, like, get over it. Like, like, this person is your friend, treat him like a friend. But like, I think we kind of did become really good friends. I got over it. Like, we never had that conversation where it's like, hey, I felt this about you, but now, like, we know that that's a one-sided thing. We can just be friends. We can, develop our friendship. And, I think it was like, some people are very, and I was playing into this, some people are very, very scared of bringing up attraction to someone. And so not bringing that up for an extended amount of time actually does you a disservice.
Do you think it's the fear of rejection keeps you from living in keeps you in the fantasy? It's like, well, if I don't know they don't like me, I can continue to fantasize about what could be.
Well, I don't think I was that intentional with it, honestly. I think it was more like just like you're fearing rejection, but you're also fearing that introducing the thought or the concept of attraction could end the friendship too. But no, I would say like me and this person had Sandy, like we had all these interests together. We actually had like a lot of great times. We would have a lot of like serious kind of like heart-to-heart discussions. It's one of those things where it's like you just keep having these things where if you're in a TV show, you know that somebody watching the TV show would be like shipping you, like all these people, they're gonna kiss. They're like it's gonna, and that's the thing. It's one of those things where it's like we didn't have that conversation at any point in the early part. It was just one of those like this nebulous thing up in the air where we could have quashed it. We could have just been like, okay, we're just gonna be friends. We didn't have that conversation, and it kept like weaving around. And for a minute, I was just fine with being friends. In fact, more than fine. I was ecstatic about it. Like I had a great time every time I hung out with this person. I helped them move. Like I would be there for this person as emotional support. And one time,
I was gonna say, how does it end with Sandy? You said it's scandalous.
oh, it's so what had happened is like right around the end of college. So this is about like 4 years building on this relationship, this friendship. They'd been out right before me. I just like was in my last year of college. They were going to be in like they moved to Collinsville. Like they weren't too far away, but they were going to like hang out and go to this like ugly sweater party with me. So we go to this party, we're having a great time. We come back. I think we get out on the roof. We had a little bit of conversation, I mean, this night is just fantastic. I'm not thinking anything of it. I'm just having a good time with a friend. Mm-hmm. And they take Xanax. I think they give me a Xanax too. And it's about 40 minutes into it. I don't know. I wasn't feeling too much. It was more like, I don't know, I'd already had a bunch of alcohol. So it's just like I'm feeling even more faded. And they kind of like, I think they'd asked, I think there was like a level of consent that they had reached. They were like, hey, can I kiss you? And I was just like, what? Like I just had to like take a step back. Just like, I thought we were, what the hell? Like I had resigned myself to friendship and friendship only with this person. And this person comes out the gate with wanting to make out. And we start making out. And it was just one of those like kind of, like, nothing happens. There's no like fooling around going on. It's just like you're doing like a lot of, intense making out. But like, so even, like college, this is very, or what would you call it? Very kind of kid stuff. I don't know. But like, it was very innocent, borderline not innocent. But like the fact that this happened at all, just like, I was just like, what? Like, you gonna have a discussion about this? Because that was like, I didn't think that we were gonna ever have any kind of romantic thing ever, and this completely surprised me. And we kind of talked about it a little bit, but then kind of let it go on. And then I kind of started dating somebody, so kind of like, I wasn't. We would meet every once in a while, and I'd hang out with them, but like that part of the like it was off limits, and I. Because I was in a pretty great relationship, and I think they started seeing someone too, and then like so we kind of just let that go. We were in our separate paths. I moved to St. Louis, and she moved to St. Louis too, and she started seeing another woman, a woman, and I was like, oh, well, good for her. But like I was like, I'm like an ally friend. I'm gonna be cool, like I ended up hanging out with them. Like they were super cool. And I think it was just like a bunch of times where it's just like, oh, okay, like I'm in their presence. This is great. They're awesome. Like I wasn't thinking about it, but in the back of my mind, I'm still just like we never talked about this, and that's weird. And it's like one of those things where it's like you can't obviously bring it up then, but it's like it would just become this thing that was in the back of my mind. Now we're friends, and she's living with her girlfriend, and he invites me over one night. And we get way too drunk, and she had just lost someone in her family, so maybe this is a trauma-triggered thing, and maybe that could have, think about it now. It's like There could have been some trauma that triggered the last time you made out. I don't know. Maybe there's this weird interlinking of events that happened. But I was trying to be supportive. I was also getting drunk, and she kind of started coming on to me, and I was just like, okay, this is kind of weird, but like I'm into it. But at the same time, it's like there's this weird melding of I've always had these feelings for you, but also like you're getting really on, like coming at me really heavy, and I'm just like, oh, do you want to talk a little bit longer? And making out ensues. It goes past the point of making out. It goes into
more.
It goes into more. And I'm just gonna say, like, we just about had sex, and her girlfriend is in the room, 2 rooms down, by the way. She's in the house. Her girlfriend's in the house and is asleep. And like, I just think of like the whole time, just like my dumb, drunk, like brain at this point, this dumb, like befuddled, like person who's had this crush forever is simultaneously aware of how bad things are and how scandalous it is, but also kind of like, fuck it, it's like, this is gonna be great. But it's not like as soon as like I think we get further into making out, it's just like, wow, this is not what I expected. This feels very forced. This almost feels like, you're trying to, like, you had an argument with your significant other and you're lashing out and using me to do so. And it was such a weird thing.
Did you feel like used by her in a way?
Well, slightly, but you could say it was like kind of mutually beneficial, or mutual using, I guess. I don't want to place too much blame on this person, because I think, like, I continue to have relationship issues. I try to get as we get older, we try to get much better at communicating things and being upfront about people who you have feelings toward, or, just being like, very much like doing check-ins. Is this okay? Or how are you feeling about this? Like, that's like the motto now. At the time, I should have done those check-ins and just been like, hey, is your girlfriend's right down the hallway? Like, like this feels wrong. And also, like, I've liked you, so, but at the same time, like, I don't know. I don't want to, I have a bad tendency to sometimes misread a situation. So the last thing I want to say is like, this person was using me and used the power dynamic. No, there was no power dynamic at play here. I think that they just got drunk. They made a bad decision. I perpetuated that bad decision as well. But then we get into it, and it's just like, there is a certain feeling that, oh, not only is this wrong, but this just doesn't, like, this feels passionless and also clearly not consensual. Like, with their partner, like, their partner didn't know what was going on. They didn't, like, approve of this. Like
they didn't sign off.
They didn't sign off. They didn't say, yeah, this dude's cool. Like, no, like, they had a relationship. They lived together. And I was over there because I was understood, or at least probably, like, they were under the understanding that I was innocent. And I thought I was innocent. And we both get drunk. This person starts making out with me, and things go further. And it's just like, oh my God. Like, I'm both feeling just so many levels of regret and bad about the situation. I left, and I drove home. I was super hungover. I should not have been driving. I was definitely drunk, but I made it home, and I'm just like, okay, I have to go to sleep because I have work in 5 hours, and I could not sleep. I just felt fucking terrible about, like, being part of this, like, cheating, like, thing that was going on. But then it was like, I was trying to talk to them, and I was like, hey, we need to talk about what happened. And so this is finally I'm like, hey, we need to talk. And they just ghosted me completely. And I didn't see them. I didn't talk to them. It would be like 5 years before I saw them again. And when I saw them, it was under a completely different context, because I think it was at this festival that I played in a band with that was local, and she was there. I don't think she was in the audience when we played, but like I ran into her and I'm like, oh, hey, how are you doing? Things are going cool. But it was always like, it's like, hey, how are you doing? Hey, remember that time that you used me to cheat on your, like, well, maybe not use me, but remember that time when we got really drunk and like did something what we we shouldn't have done, and like your girlfriend was in the other room, and it's like no, I wasn't gonna bring that up. At the same time, like I've always wondered like what happened, because they definitely stopped seeing each other. They I don't know how quickly, and I'm not sure like if that had happened with other people. I have no clue. I just know that even a few years after that, it was like 2013. So even like 3 years later, or 2 years later, 3 years later, I would run into them. I was at a restaurant, and them and their new partner came in, and I would run into them, and I was just like, oh, hey, how are you doing? Things are going good. Okay. Like all exchanging niceties, but never delving into this scandalous shit that had happened. And it's just like, all I know is that I talked to some friends since then. It's come out that like they actually pulled the ghost card with a lot of their friends who, you know, weren't involved with potentially wrecking their relationships. So I wasn't the only person. But yeah, it's one of those things that just leaves me with so many questions. And like, I don't know, all of the answers to those questions, it just seems like none of them are good. So all I can say to anyone listening to this long-winded diatribe is, so all I can say is, you know, folks, have conversations with the people that you're attracted to. Get some shit laid out in ground, like ground rules, boundaries. Like if you have a friend who you're attracted to, have that conversation.
If you were to have like this mindset back in like the 7th grade, and you had talked to Tina and things had worked out, maybe she had gone to the dance with you, and you were one of those couples that dated through high school and college and got married, where do you think your life would be?
I'm gonna say that they're not the kind of person who would have gotten right into a marriage right outside of college, even. At least to my knowledge, they didn't for years, and that's cool. Like I respect that. Like maybe they are now. I don't know. I guess I have to check at some point. But no. I don't. Yeah, I think being the person that they are, I wouldn't have really gotten into that. You know, gotten married right out of high school, and you know, God bless people who are. That's not for me. You know, I'm in more of a. I guess I'm more into the ethical non-monogamy, dating multiple people. You know, I would love to be more of a polyamorous relationship now in my life. And I think I started to realize that getting out of college, and realize that especially in my first few years of my 30s, that was more of the thing that I wanted to lean towards. But the difference in that, you know, it's not an excuse, right? Like the whole thing with polyamory and the whole thing with ethical non-monogamy, and it kind of comes up to the center of what we've been talking about, which is open channels of communication with the person that you're interested in, being honest, being communicative, you know, doing check-ins.
So let's keep those lines of communication open for everyone. And as we move on, and we're going to talk about what you got going on creatively now, real quick. So first off, you said that conventions are slowly coming back since we are getting our little vaccines and everything, and you're really busy again. Do you have like a lot lined up for the fall?
Yeah, I have, so Nate Jones Design is the fan art stuff that I do. I also do a little bit of original art in there as well. I would like to do more. That's going to happen eventually. But right now, the fan art stuff, I've been doing that for about 5 years. You know, everything kind of took a dip in 2020, obviously. But like 2016 is when I started. I've been doing cons ever since then. Unfortunately, 2020 kind of sucked the wind out of my sails and a lot of people's sails. Mm-hmm. And now it's coming back, doing like a show in Kansas City. I'm doing Boston, Dallas, Miami, New York, Indianapolis, Indiana. A little bit of like, I'm doing Denver as well, Rhode Island. Yeah, so a lot. Yeah. I basically now have like 12 shows, along with Chicago, Seattle. Like basically, I'm pretty well booked.
Do you have any like new characters you're going to be premiering in these upcoming cons?
Oh, you know, like, so I mean, I know, you know, you've written about me before doing this stuff, and I think you probably you talked or posted some of like the Bob's Burgers stuff. Yeah, and since then, you know, I haven't done any more from that series, but I've done a lot of fan art with like What We Do in the Shadows and a lot more like MCU, like legacy stuff, like Vision. I'm working on Wanda. I did a Thor, like doing all like, I know it always feels cheesy because I'm just like, oh, check out my fan art, everyone. But like, I don't know, like people like it. It's pop culture related.
So
People
much
dig it.
more than fan art, especially at the conventions, what you artists do. I know I go to like the LA Comic Con and I've been to some other ones, but the artist alley is my favorite. Well, with all these like conventions and everything, like how are you balancing them with like your new musical endeavor, Tense Era?
Oh my God, I barely it's really good. I have it's one of those things where I just I'm in that moment where I'm kind of working on finishing mixing some songs for releases. I just finished a collaboration with Maxi Glamour, who is the drag performer. Themselves and I actually went and shot a video in LA. Yeah, it came out a few weeks ago, but it was for a song. Like they released an album, and we actually had we co-wrote and co-produced, and I had mixed, and was able to get a mastering engineer on them. 2 different songs that are on their album. One's called Another Realm, and the other one's called Who's a What That's Motel. Obviously, if you link to my stuff at the end of all this, I have a playlist on my Spotify where you can listen to both of those songs. But their album came out. It's great, and I'm really happy to have the 2 songs that we did work on. They're more of the kind of psychedelic trap variety, so think of like Astro World era, like Travis Scott. Meets more. I don't know. Like I'm a big fan of the production on that record, so I'm trying to think of the easiest way to say this. I did not learn how to produce anything until about a year ago. I got Ableton, and it was just a trial version. I was really having a fun time with it. I had a friend who knew somebody who was able to get me the full suite. I got that. I started working on music kind of like about last year. I wrote this one song. I started writing the bones of what would be the first single back in like August of last year. And then I had a few other songs. I just kind of sat on them. And I had a really, really, kind of busy design, run up to the winter of 2020. I was still very self-employed. I was doing little jobs, commissions here and there. Then I would also take some time to do my own, a little bit of original work here and there, but mostly like continuing the fan art and pushing that online. And me and a bunch of other, visual artists had just the best, and really all small businesses, I think, had a great, holidays, because everyone was coming out and supporting us. And that amount of support was able to kind of wean me off of really, really needing to work on visual art for a few months. And so I was actually able to take a few months off. And from January to March, I wrote like about 18 to 20 songs.
Oh, wow.
And recorded most of them. So like they're all essentially done. And there's just been getting back into them and mixing them. And the mixing, when you're mixing your own music, if I was mixing like a 4-piece band that wasn't me, it probably wouldn't take long at all. So it would still take long because I'm still a total noob. I'm going to say that. But, you have less of a risk because you're putting less of yourself out there. So you're less of a perfectionist. Like you're still going to do like what's necessary. Like, oh, this needs to be this level. This needs to be like, you need to sit this way in the mix. That makes sense. But I'm kind of a maximalist. And so I'm putting like 70 tracks worth of instrumentation on one song and trying to get it all. And it's like, I probably could have done this differently. Started out more like I'm going to do this with minimal and see what I can get by with here and do more this sound. But it's like, no, I came out of the gate just throwing everything and seeing what sticks. And it's I'm so happy with how like the songs of Maxi, as well as the first original song, Everything Ends. I dropped that a few weeks ago. And I've gotten, a good amount of positive feedback. It's not like viral or anything. It's exactly what I expected would happen. Like I don't have a lot of listeners yet, but the whole plan, and I think a lot of people who are doing music, I know you're probably listening to this more for, if you're listening to this episode, you're probably listening to what not to do when you have romantic inclinations towards friends, which young date, oh, terrible. But But yeah. Also, I'm just gonna throw some free music advice your way, which is if you're your own person, or if you're putting your own project out, or even if you are in a band and you're putting a project out, don't release a full album before like getting like singles out. Like Nancy Glenn was able to put some singles out and got some interest. They're on a label, like they got some stuff out. It's cool. And like myself, like I have this one single out, and my plan, and I think a lot of people do this, I think I've just noticed it a lot more in music in general, is to release another single. Just almost treat it like YouTube or like podcasts, where it's like, okay, well, this month I have a single, and then 2 weeks later is another single, and then 2 weeks later is another single, and then 2 weeks later that completes the first EP. Like that's kind of what I'm doing. Like I'm releasing this line of singles that are all from the same album, or EP in this case. It's a 5-track, and in between then I'll have these collaborations, which I have a song with a soul singer who makes fantastic music and has an insanely great voice, Katara Parson. She and I worked on this song. I kind of threw her some music, and then she built like a whole song around it. I'm like, oh shit. So then I started like throwing more instrumentation in the mix, and then like it was months ago, and it was kind of a thing where like I just had other things come up, and then now we're just in the mastering phase, and it's about to get finished, and then we'll be able to like get it on to do like streaming services, and I'm gonna try to get that out. There's a really great like pop singer named Moon Toy, who's actually originally from the St. Louis area. I knew them when they were Mother Stutter. Like we've been talking. They're just really great when it comes to like giving just completely honest feedback about original songs. But like I'm also gonna work on some originals with them eventually, but also like I have a remix of their song that that I've had in the cut. It's all just a matter of like mixing. Like I just have to mix this stuff and get it mastered, get it out. So there's a lot of work to it, and right now it's kind of like it's a little bit on the back burner. Like I'm trying to stay on top of it. I want to get better at being able to do that, but at least the first stuff is out, and the goal is to get at least 2 more songs out in mid to late August / early September, and then be on a roll where from that point every 2 to 3 weeks a new song comes out, and then maybe the last song completes the EP. So then there's a few months later there is a full 5-track EP with multiple other singles and collabs there for anyone who wants to listen to it. It's there, and then there'll be a remix of that, and then there'll be another EP. Like I just have to finish the project. Like I just have to finish the work, but like a lot of it's in that last like quarter stage, and the mixing is anyone who mixes their own stuff can say like you're like, especially I'm a freaking perfectionist. You've probably noticed that with how long it takes me to work on some of the visual art. I just carried that over to the music side, and now it just takes me sometimes 100 hours to work on a song, but or more, and usually I'm able to get a drawing done like 15 to 20, sometimes 30, but yeah, it takes a long time. But at the same time, it's like I'm still learning. I'm still trying to get better at knowing what a song needs when hearing it, when arranging it, trying to get faster at getting all the frequencies right, trying to get on top of that, as well as the social media game. I'm still horrendously bad about it right now. I have a TikTok, and I have Tensera on TikTok, and I have a Tensera on Instagram too, and both of them are woefully small. I've only posted 3 things, so I'm still woefully behind on what I wanted to post. But I'm gonna start like doing duets, and I'm gonna start getting more music performance out there as well.
Good. I was going to kind of full circle moment.
Yes.
So you're like you said, like when you were younger, you're definitely a different guy. You treat your relationships differently. You've grown, you've evolved, and you said everything ends. You said specifically, it is about accepting that every romantic relationship will come to an end and kind of not taking those moments for granted. Do you think that your crushes on Tina and Sandy and so forth and so on kind of led you to that moment, that realization when you were writing this song?
Well,
or do we not want to give them that much credit?
No. I mean, I want to say like it does suck when things go sour with a person, which happened with Sandy. Obviously, things never went really sour with the Tina character because things just never really happened. Those friendships existed. They were minimal. They were more like acquaintances almost to a degree. Like it's one of those things where like we were acquaintances and then we were friends. And we kind of all hung out and then we just kind of stopped hanging out. We went our separate ways. Like and that happens with friendships too. I think like you have these really great times with people, and sometimes later on that ends and you don't hang out as much. You don't, maybe you took it for granted that you were going to be hanging out all the time. Maybe you took it for granted that you're going to have this place in that person's life, and now their life has changed. And you no longer have that place anymore, but you can still, both reminisce and be happy that you exist in that place with that person at that time in a moment, or even a string of moments, or even like a extended period of years. Like that can still be a good thing. I just feel like the transience of that has to be understood.
Can you tell people where they can find you online?
Yes. It's Tense Era on Spotify. It's on Apple Music. That's 2 words, TENSE, Tense, which describes me to a T. I have a lot of extra in the anxiety department. And then Era, like the ages or years. Tense Era on Spotify, on Apple Music. I just got a notification that I'm on Deezer. I don't know who the fuck uses Deezer, but it's you get on these distribution like CD Baby or DistroKid, and they put you on everything. And so even the ones that someone probably uses on their Zune is
one of my friends had a crush on a guy that had a Zune, and I'll never let her forget it. But yeah, so Tense Era, and you have Nate Jones Design as well. All right, well, Nate, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me about your middle school crush and beyond. And everyone, you can find all of Nate Jones and Tense Era's information below. And until next time, keep crushing it.